Getting nerds. We're playing Victoria 3. We're still building up our nice chill country here in Scandinavia. So let's. I'm not going to kick her off quite yet though, because I think this session I'm going to play a fun little game where we try to increase automation, and the place to do that is in getting condensing pump engines going in our mines. This is going to be a big cost increase for these businesses, so we're just going to go, or sorry, not condensing pump engines, steam donkeys. But I think they're going to be still profitable. Over time, it also means, sort these by market price like always, that we're going to bring in more coal, because we're still bringing in a ton of coal. And as you can see, our coal trade routes are quite... This one's not profitable, which is weird. These ones are... Wait a minute. Hold up. Hold on. Are we getting most of our coal from inside the country? Okay, most of it's coming from Prussia. Well, why? I wonder if they own the trade route. No, it's this one. Alright, alright. Anyway, we're bringing in a lot of coal, and we're going to bring in more, because this is going to be necessary. So I'm going to try it out with our lead mines. So that makes them more profitable, okay? And I'm going to do the same for our coal mines, or for our iron mines. And I'm just going to unpause. That's going to... Coal market's doing mostly okay. Hopefully, we'll see if we end up with more coal coming in. Is Prussia on free trade? Ooh. Valdemar von Hohenzollern. Interesting. Are they on free trade? They're not. They're still on mercantilism. But mercantilism is pretty okay for us. It's pretty fine for us to have other people on mercantilism. Yeah, there we go. And so we got more coal coming in as well. So we're going to do the same to our sulfur mines. And finally, the logging camps. Yeah, okay. And hopefully, again, this is going to lead to an increase in coal coming in, which is what I'm hoping will end up happening. We've also got a pretty significant increase in engines now that we're using a bunch of those. We have some engines coming in from a bunch of different places. Wait, hold up. We have a bunch of people importing our engines, because we're the only people selling engines abroad. That's okay. But with that having been said, let's go ahead and get some more motor industries. So we should have some labor available, since we just automated all those jobs. So we're going to be putting our industrial expansions in areas where we've got a lot of people unemployed. So that's a pretty solid setup right now. Let's get a few more. Let me see. What else is not... What else can I be producing more of? Very good. Some more lead mines, honestly. A couple of those in Svealand. While we're doing that, let's produce some ports in Svealand at the same time. That'll get us some more convoys. And in fact, we'll put the ports... this is fine. This is absolutely fine. We're spending a bunch of cash now, but we'll only be doing so for another, 15 or so weeks. We're going to wind up with some people available in eastern Norway, but hopefully they'll be moving into new jobs as new industries get built by the free market, by the private sector. So, what that's going to do, hopefully, is it's going to continue to boost up our standard of living, and that's going to create more migration attraction in these states. 39 here, 37, 42 in Svealand. Are we working on any law changes? Just looking at options here. Oop. Okay, so there's a rebellion in Bavaria. I don't want to be fighting against my allies, Radical Bavaria. No. So, I don't want to be fighting Radical Bavaria. Come on now. What else? We could output some more... Oh, we've got an overage of hardwood. Well, Russia needs hardwood. Have some hardwood. Prussia too. Sorry, one of the things you got to be careful of in this game is when you've got buildings that produce two different resources, you got to make sure there's enough demand for both to keep the buildings profitable. So that's why I'm in particular being careful about that. Oop, we got a little shortage of axes here. Perfect. All right, so we've got vacuum canning. That's going to be wonderful. That's going to produce tons more groceries. It's also going to cost oil and way more fish. Do we have enough fish to tolerate this? Just looking for fish here. I think we do. Yes, we should. That shouldn't be much of a problem at all. It's going to cost some oil, but we do have... Oop. We should have oil coming out of these whaling stations. Yeah, these produce 40 oil a pop, so these whaling stations will be just fine. Okay, come on, music player. So these should get producing... Yeah, so even now these are employing additional pops. There we go. And that should sort out our oil problem, no problem. And then we'll have enough oil to vacuum can as much as we want. Let's see how the oil looks in our market now. Let's just go ahead and find it. It's here. Oil is very affordable. Wonderful. That's exactly what we want. Let's see if we can export some oil, because we've got... Actually, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. I want to keep all the oil in Scandinavia for Scandinavia, because oil's going to matter a lot as we get going forward. A bit of an inch downward of standard of living right now. Why are these industries so unprofitable? They're only buying a little bit more oil. Maybe we're building too many groceries? Let's filter to staple goods. Yeah, that's the issue. All right, time to export groceries. I know there are markets that want this. Prussia, Russia. Also, hello. Furniture is really affordable. So let's get exporting some of that. The Netherlands, Spain, and Russia. All right, well, that is going to use up a lot of convoys, so I'm just going to go ahead and... Oh, Jotunland is really tight on employment, so we'll build more there. So I'm gonna end up having a little bit more, a little bit higher costs for a bit, but we're just gonna build up a huge expansion of our ports, again, to handle the massive increase in trade that I'm trying to facilitate here. Because ideally, with these markets, you want anything... See, this is not ideal. Like, yes, it does mean cheap furniture for our citizens, but that cheap furniture is going to make the furniture manufactories unprofitable, and that's not something that is good for us, because it means that those buildings are not maximally employing and everything. So that's the way we're working it. Other than that, I think we could bring in We're getting all of our opium from Russia at the moment. Most people are not using opium. We could definitely use... We're only getting sugar from the British market. So we could definitely get more of that. And it looks like the Dutch market's the way to go. What else? We're still getting tons of dyes from various markets. We're getting tea from the British market, and I think we're getting wine from the British market too. And from the Prussian market, but only a little bit. Alright, so... Because keeping these luxury resources coming in is also key. Alright. So it occurs to me that I also have some unused military capacity. This guy's going to go soon. These guys are both going to go soon. Alright, so let's see who's available in generals. So, we have a positivist. He seems like a good fit. He lands the armed forces. We have a royalist who arms the armed forces. Don't love that. And we have a radical who lands with the intelligentsia, but he's also reckless and a cocaine addict. Cocaine addict isn't necessarily a problem, but reckless is really bad in terms of combat. What about you? You're a hedonist. Extra supply consumption. That's probably not terrible. What about extra morale recovery? Yeah, we're going to bring you in. Arva Shanka. So, new character, a communist. Stalwart defender, which is good. Reserved. Reduced morale loss. It's not too bad. I'll bring you in. And last, you're with the intelligence. You're a vanguardist, and you're imposing. I don't necessarily want too many vanguardists, so we're going to wait on that. We have a movement to enact wage subsidies. That might be something we're going to do here. In fact, we are going to do that. That's for sure going to happen. Because wage subsidies is going to actively make our country more attractive to immigration. And again, we are relying on immigration. Despite our quite substantial population growth at this point, we're still relying on immigration to keep our economy growing. I'm not going to do too much of that too early on. Oh, we got arts academies not being profitable. That's a problem. Let's export some art. Who wants to buy this art? Here. You take some art. You get some art. And you get some art. And you get some art. Everybody gets art. Wow! We are sub 1,000 radicals. That's wonderful. Heck. We're doing so good. This is wonderful. Alright, so, moving right along here. So I'll continue to monitor goods prices. Russia started buying glass from us, which is just fine, because that'll keep our glass works nice and profitable. We're exporting a ton of grain at this point. Yeah, not that much. Most of it's actually being eaten by our pops, which is just fine. Cool. Keeping that at what it is. Still gaining in cash. I have unrealized taxes. Quite a bit. So average tax waste is 5%. Where do I have tax waste? Am I over taxation capacity? Oh, no, you know what? It's this boy. Yeah, this guy gives us tax waste. God. I I don't much care for you, Everett Claire, personally. I don't vibe with it. I don't vibe with this Everett Claire ruler guy. Alright. Let's just take a run at our trade routes, because we've got some that are kind of unproductive. This one from the British market is not great, but we need that coal. We're exporting some porcelain to Prussia. We could go ahead and not. We're exporting plenty of porcelain to other places, so I think we can go ahead and skip that. Bringing in wine from Prussia. This is not very productive, but it's not too unproductive either. Let me see. In terms of keeping these ones, I'm also partially looking at just the unproductivity value here. Because some of these you can kind of keep, even if they're not super productive. We're still making a ton of money exporting furniture. Gosh, and also golly. And more fine art exports? No. No way that's even close. Ooh, floating harbor. That gives us a nice increase to port maximum level. Norland, do you have an infrastructure problem? No. Oh, I must have been in some kind of view there. Alright, we're continuing to allow the private sector to take the lead on construction. It's just fine. I'm just going to bring up a... I'm going to make sure we don't have anywhere with an excessive amount of labor available. We still have a lot of labor available in Jotunland. So I'm going to go ahead and build up a gaggle of government offices here. That's going to, again, cost us some cash, but the other thing it's going to do is it's going to provide us with the extra bureaucratic capacity that we need to sustain both these higher tier trade routes and the welfare that we're going to have. An influential faction within the intelligentsia has grown frustrated with their co-members' neutrality on the topic of wage subsidies. Themselves in favor of the law, they've now resolved to form a separate political faction intent on passing it. How can you all stand idly by and watch the world pass before your eyes? Have you no sense of honor, of duty to your fellow man? I say nay to such lack of ambition, and I dare say I am not alone in this. So I can weaken the intelligentsia and get 15% enactment chance. Or I can weaken the intelligentsia by a big amount and get some extra to the trade unions. I'm going to do this one. And the reason is because while the intelligentsia are generally aligned with my agenda, I don't want the Labour Party to get too strong because I don't want this guy in power again. Because he's goofing up my standard of living, and I worked pretty hard for that standard of living, TBH fam. TBH vac. Social Democrat leaving the Church of Sweden. That's a wild one. Pull them into the government? Not effectively. Just curious. Just curious. USA signed a deal with Spain. They didn't end up taking Eastern Andalusia, which is not really shocking, but it is kind of an awkward duck. Cuba got independent. That's fun. What about the Philippines? Philippines still in the hands of Spain? They are. Well, it is what it is. I'm just going to take a look at my budget. I've still got military wages high, but that's not really affecting that much. I could pop them back to middle without damaging anything, though, so let's do it. Keep the government solvent. That's what we want to do. I could put in another luxury good tax. And I think I'm going to. In fact, I can afford to. So let's go ahead and do it. Put myself at exactly 0 authority. But it'll help the government stay solvent, and that's a thing that we desperately, desperately need in this one of the eras of all time. So I didn't really explain what I was doing over here with wage subsidies, but basically before we had no Social Security, and that's fine. What wage subsidies does is it adds another institution, same as the other institutions that we've been talking about. And this one provides benefits to anyone who's unemployed. And what it does is it really, really drives the standard of living up, because unemployed people are the people who generally have the lowest standard of living. Right now we have 11,000 unemployed people, and that's just fine. That's just fine. There's no problem with that. Like, ideally they would be employed, but especially in a country where you have the kind of population growth that we have, shooting for literal 100% employment is not productive. With that having been said, we have 3 3/4 million people employed. All right, we're progressing to the end of that political movement without having a problem. So about 3 3/4 people gainfully employed, 11K unemployed, and that's just fine. Like, that's so much less than, that's 1/3 of 1% unemployment, basically. Well, 2/3 of 1% unemployment. It went up a little bit, but that's okay. You'll also notice that we have a big block of dependents here. This is still kind of the era where families are built around, like, your one breadwinner with the wife generally doing uncompensated labor in the home to keep the home managed. So that's a pretty common pattern in this time period, and that's kind of how our society is built. So you're going to expect to see that for a while. We currently have women allowed to own property, but we'll be able to get them to be in the workforce and then to be able to vote as things go on. And what that's going to do is that's going to change the way, it's going to increase our workforce ratio, which is going to be really important, because we want to have high workforce participation to get more work done. We just built 4 government offices. This has generated a boatload of extra bureaucracy. So we should have more than enough bureaucracy to get a decent standard of living for our unemployed population. And hopefully that's going to keep things moving right on up. I don't necessarily want to increase standard of living. I mean, I do want to increase standard of living to bonkers levels, really. Crazy high is where I want my standard of living to be, because that's the tall game, that's the tall build game. With that having been said, I'm not necessarily choking on any for standard of living. I am going to do another small military expansion. One, because I want to round out these numbers, and that's just for me. But also, where we got labor? Got some labor in Jutland. And I'll put some in Scania as well. And that's going to give us a total of, it's going to be about a 50% increase to naval power. Grassroots support for law. The political wills and desires of the lower classes will always remain an opaque matter. For whatever reason, support for wage subsidies is spread like wildfire across Scandinavia, spurred on by charismatic speakers and lively debates in small-time social clubs. They're backing what now? Well, who are we to complain? While their support was never a prerequisite for success, it sure doesn't hurt to have it either. Public enthusiasm expedites reforms. That's going to make the trade unions stronger. Use this common ground to calm the masses. Get a bunch of loyalists in Jutland. I think we're going to go for that one. Because again, I don't want the trade unions to get super strong right now, because they're headed up by Everard Clare, socialist demagogue. John Gunderson of the intelligentsia is rapidly gaining popularity among the people. The radical socialist message of equality he espouses is proving especially appealing to the lower classes. Comrades, the time for action is now. Why should we toil in squalor where the boss grows rich and fat off our labor? Why should the meager pennies we earn go to the greedy landlord who tells us we should be grateful for our miserable shacks? Radical. So this is going to get us It's going to make this guy really popular, and it's going to give us a bunch of radicals in Gotland. But Gotland doesn't have that many people, so I'm not super worried about that. Feminism, the tech is available. That's wonderful. Shouldn't be too long before we've got some feminists showing up, and if we can get them into the government, then we can just go ahead and have a government that lets women vote, and that'll be nice. So generally, things are advancing. Standard of living is creeping back up, even with Everett Clare in office. We seem to have fallen down below Prussia, but that should be... We're short on prestige from them, but we should be getting more of it due to having done a naval expansion, I'm hoping? Hey, there we go. There it goes. Wonderful. We're still getting... They have 241 from Navy power projection and 294 from Army. And we have 200 and 192. So I think one of the cheapest ways to keep our prestige high is to... Oh, you know what? I think it's because I dropped military wages. Yeah, we get extra power projection from high military wages. That's right. That's why I was doing this. Yeah, there we go. Haha, got him. Oh, that's kind of silly, to be honest, but it is what it is. And this should probably pop as soon as this gets done. Excellent. And we're just going to put this... Okay, so how much are we spending in wage subsidies right now? Welfare payments, £136 a week. Alright, so we can afford to increase that up to 40%. That's going to double it. We can probably afford to get it up to triple that, actually, but I don't want to get it too high right now because Social Security institution can be deceptive, and if you wind up in a funny situation in your country, you might wind up with just a ton of people on Social Security, and so you don't want to have it too high, at least at this point in history. It's the 1870s right now. It's still early on in history. In fact, we've just passed. We're not even at the midpoint of the game yet. So we're still figuring stuff out. And we want to have some space to grow as we get stronger. Sadly, I'm not seeing any of those big immigration things popping up, which is sad because we went to cultural exclusion, and so we should be bringing in a ton of people from different countries, and yet we're not. Where are we with standard of living? See, there's all the places that are near us have lower standard of living than we do. Prussia has lower by a lot. Even Great Britain is basically on par with us. France is lower, Austria is lower, Russia is a lot lower. And we accept a lot of... Wait a minute. We do accept... Okay, we've got a communist party. Yeah, so our primary cultures are all European heritage, so we accept a lot of people from a lot of these other countries. Finland's standard of living is bad. You're in your own market, Finland. That's wild. We should help our friends, the Finns. Let's export them some tools, clothing, and paper. Let's export them some steel, porcelain, and luxury clothes. We're going to export a bunch of things to Finland, friends. Luxury clothes to Finland. Steel. Porcelain. Clothes. How's your market now? You need man-o-wars? I'll sell you some man-o-wars, no problem. Oh, actually, I don't produce any man-o-wars. That's funny. About some artillery, you definitely need that. Paper. Definitely get using paper. Already exporting clothes. Can't really properly export tea. All my tea comes from other countries. Alright, that should be good. That should be good. That should give the Finns what they need. It's generally good to ooh, I got a lot of fabric. How's my market doing for fabric? Just fine. Alright then. So the reason I'm doing this is because ideally, I want Finland in my customs union, because I want them to be friends with me and to, want to be, in my country. I don't know if I can peacefully annex Finland without doing a diplomatic play, but it would be cool if I could. Oh, interesting. This is really interesting. So the intelligentsia and the rural folk are going to fold together into the Communist Party. And the Labour Party is going to be... the Church of Sweden is going to fold into the Labour Party. So I'm actually kind of hoping the Communist Party might do better on this, because the... Again, I don't want the Labour Party... If I get this guy as the leader, might be better. Or sorry, this guy. Fordel Gildenkrantz. Let's see what traits he's got. He's literary, prestige, and infamy decay. Oh, that's nice. And honorable, which is generally really good. If we got Fordel Gildenkrantz in as the leader of the Labour Party, that would make them acceptable rulers. I know we usually don't go for 3 years, but I seem to have gone for 3 years, so we're just gonna go ahead and vibe with it, friends. Do a quick check, make sure we're good on employment. We're doing very well. And as you can see, average standard of living has gone up by 0.1, and most of that's been driven by a small increase in the standard of living of the lower stratum, and that's going to be because of our Social Security. Social Security payments welfare payments are still pretty low, so I'm going to go ahead and tick this up to the 3rd level, and we'll just keep that steady. Keep that nice and steady. Looking at our technology, open hearth process, that's going to be very important. But it's not critical. What I'm looking for is opportunities to use oil. I know there's something... I'm pretty sure this uses oil, but there's like an automatic bakery production method. It's down here. Okay, it's really, really far down. Alright. So we're not necessarily concerning ourselves with that. Sure would be nice to have electrical power. In fact, the more I look at this, the more tempted I am by the rotary valve engine, because that would allow us further automations to free up additional labor, and that would be just wonderful. Do I really need open hearth process? How am I doing with steel? Yeah, could definitely use open hearth process. There's the election. So, unfortunately, we still have Everett Clare in charge here. So, if we push these folks out and pull the Church of Sweden in, that's going to goof us up real bad. So, we have the option of basically pulling in the Communist Party, or we can do a Labor Radical People's Party government. This is so very curious. I'm very leery of having both of these interest groups in the government, though. But, on the other hand, I don't want to have an unacceptable government. If I put both of these parties in power, I'm going to do this, and... Okay, well, we have a contested government. So, if we do this, okay, that's not going to be a problem. If we push them out and bring in the armed forces, it'll be better, but not significantly. Alright, so we'll do this, and we'll see what happens. Oh my goodness. So much has happened. The path to socialism has been completed. That's wild. With socialist ideas sweeping across Scandinavia, John Gunderson of the Intelligentsia has been appointed to a leading position in the government. There's sufficient momentum for a rapid policy change. The proletariat is everywhere assuming a threatening attitude and is beginning to count the ranks of its enemy, far weaker in numbers than itself, and to demand the actualization of its rights. All people and all men are filled with a kind of premonition, and everyone whose vital organs are not paralyzed faces with shuddering expectation the approaching future which will utter the redeeming word. Pass laws protecting the trade unions. The intelligentsia will always select a vanguardist, communist, or anarchist leaders. Other interest groups are more likely to select such leaders, and then rural folk and intelligentsia get bonuses. That's curious. Also, we discovered anarchism. Seems weird to have a communist government when we have a regular republic. Very odd. Especially with this guy's our leader. Wow! The Church of Sweden's got so much clout now. Alright, well, what's different? We can go to a council republic, but the industrialists are going to be big mad. I don't want to get the industrialists big mad right now because they're still kind of salty about previous changes, and I don't want to make too many changes too soon. They're also still pretty powerful. So I can't go to any of the quote-unquote communist policies until I've actually got communism. So I can't go to cooperative ownership or collectivized agriculture until I've got a council republic. So I think we're just going to leave this be for the moment. And yeah, we're just gonna keep things relaxed. I know that in the Sorry, what I was going to say is, I know that in the current build of the game, countries as a whole are much more hostile towards council republics than they are towards traditional republics or monarchies. Bourgeois republics or monarchies. So that's just a thing that's gone on. And that's something to be aware of. And that's part of why I don't want to do this, because I don't want to put myself in a situation where there are going to be a bunch of countries really mad at me. With that having been said, we have a British Republic, an authoritarian universal suffrage republic with censorship and secret police trying to overthrow Great Britain. Over what? I'm not sure. This is the government of the military, the trade unions, and the rural folk. And the leading government is the government of the intelligentsia and the industrialists. This is going to be a mess, friends. A real mess. I don't know... Why does Greenland keep having revolts? This is just going to be bonkers. We're going to watch this for now. We're going to see how things go. Because I suspect that a lot of these European powers are going to get involved with a capital G and a capital I. And I don't love the way that's likely to go. This could be another one of those grand European wars. Right now, Great Britain is riven with internal division. And in fact, I think it might be a good time for Scandinavia to continue to grow its military. Not by too much, but just... by a significant enough amount. It's going to cost us a bunch of money in the very short term. But, again, I don't want to be in some kind of situation where we're kind of caught out by this. By something like this. In fact... it is getting to be towards the time to shoot for a more impressive form of military. And I think we might be going that way. There's a great temptation to blitz trench works, but I don't necessarily want that because I've got a couple of techs still not researched in Tier 3. Let's get something a little bit more upbeat here. Has anyone... have any of the great powers stepped in? Okay, alright. So I think ultimately we're going to end up not on any side in this. In the earliest build of the game, Great Britain often had these cyclical revolts that would just, like, they couldn't get its stuff together, and it would just have revolution after revolution until it was completely busted. I don't know if that's going to happen in our version of the game, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so everyone else is functionally just not yet declared neutrality, so I'm going to declare neutrality on that. And we'll keep an eye on this revolution. Any other silliness going on in the world? There really hasn't been that much colonization of Africa at all. The French and the British are pushing in here and here, but still. Ooh, pump jacks. We've unlocked oil rigs. That'll matter for all the... do I have any states that can unlock oil? It'll show down here, so... no in Iceland. No in northern Norway. No in the rest of Norway. No in Norland. No in Svealand. No in Jotland. No in Scania. No in the Danish states, and no in Gotland. So, it's just fine. And here's open hearth process, which is wonderful. So this just lets us really dramatically increase our steel output, and that's what we're going to do. You think these are unprofitable, but really they're just unprofitable because other people don't know how good our steel is. That was just a notification of an exile. I'm not really looking for agitators right now. How did we go down in rank? Oh, we went down in rank because Great Britain split into 2 countries. I'm like, how did we get down out of the Great Powers? Oh man, I bet Two Sicilies is big mad about Great Britain. Let's take a look at this war. So, it looks like the rebellion is losing a lot more. It's also spent a lot more cash. Has anyone made any progress? Looks like the rebels are winning in Scotland. I don't know who's winning in the south. Oh, battle right outside London. That looks rough. And then in Ireland there's a battle as well. It looks like it's going the way of the government. Well, we'll keep monitoring that, but that's for next time. Friends, I hope you've had fun. I've had fun. I hope you've had fun, and I'll see y'all on the other side.